the winners and the losers in the battle between de Ruyter and the ANC over Eskom? Here to tell us is political scientist and independent commentator Eugene Brink. Welcome, Eugene.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
What can you liken the relationship between de Ruyter and the ANC to?
Well, I think it's more or less akin to people maybe falling in love based on some aesthetic qualities. You might call it like that. De Ruyter still has impressive academic qualifications. He had no visible ties to the ANC. He led NAMPAC, reasonably successful. And I think after the state capture imbroglio, they needed someone almost respectable, someone that they could almost parade to the public and say that this person is almost a knight on a white horse, like we say in Afrikaans, de Ruyter on a wit perd, who would come and save Eskom. I don't know if they actually said that, but I think that was the perception that was instilled with the public. Someone who could stand at arm's length from political interests and who could competently lead Eskom. I don't know if the ANC or the government or Eskom's board, anybody involved with de Ruyter's appointment, actually had some ulterior motives in appointing André de Ruyter. I think it was almost, they wanted to polish Eskom's image. They wanted to get someone in who could turn everything around, maybe a turnaround specialist. And I think de Ruyter expected the ANC to be a willing partner, also to fall in love with, if you could call it that. So I think the early days, those were heady days, 2019, the ANC came under incredible criticism and scrutiny by the unions at Eskom, the more socialist-orientated leftist unions who complained about de Ruyter's appointment not chiming with transformation and so forth. And they just proceeded with it. Pravin Gordhan lauded him in public, said they appreciate him taking a pay cut to go and work for Eskom and to lead the company, and to get it out of its doldrums. And so many people fall in love at first. In terms of looks, everything is new, it's early days, and they expected him probably to, well, at least some people in the ANC expected him to be a fall guy at the end, to show that, listen here, this technocrat, this person who wasn't even affiliated with us, couldn't turn it around. And de Ruyter would set off on this white horse and just gallop into the sunset and not say anything, just retreat in shame for failing to turn Eskom around. De Ruyter probably expected that they would be a willing partner, that they would go along, that the police would, and all the law enforcement agencies like the Hawks and everyone else would work with him, would cooperate, would certainly make sure that guilty parties are brought to book. But I mean, we don't even need his book to detail everything else. It's been widely reported on, it's been widely documented what's going on at Eskom. The corruption that's going on there. I've personally heard from friends of mine and former colleagues of mine all the corruption and the inflated tenders and everything that's going on there. And they probably got some assurances and some guarantees from him to that they would work with him, probably from Pravin Gordhan, from maybe from Gwede Mantashe as well, that they would cooperate and that they would help him to turn Eskom around. And they probably expected him not to be too hard on, downsizing the workforce, because when he took over, there were almost 50,000 people working at Eskom. And a lot of those people were in C-bands. They were earning very high salaries and earning a lot of money and perks and everything else. And it didn't turn out. Eventually, I think he tried his best. I don't know if he got disillusioned. He probably is now. He got disillusioned with everything that went on there. He has said numerous times, and the unwibberals said something to the same effect, that they have, at high levels and at, let's say, district levels or local level, reported crimes, reported corruption, in terms of the watering down of coal, the theft of coal, and nothing happened. Nothing happened in the end. I don't think he got the support. And yet again, in terms of marriage, you need respect, you need mutual trust, you need support. And I think he just didn't get it. It wasn't, it wasn't mutual in terms of turning Eskom around. Turning Eskom around is not only the CEO's responsibility, and you need a lot of political support, because the state is the sole shareholder, and you need to be able to do a lot of things that might not sit well with a tripartite alliance, such as downsizing the workforce, not agreeing to crazy 15% wage hikes, not touching certain vested interests in terms of corruption and so forth. And so eventually de Ruyter decided to sign the divorce documents. He fell out of love, and there were accusations and there were recriminations in turn, like Pravin Gordhan accusing him of not being the Messiah he promised to be. I don't think he ever said he would be a Messiah. I don't think, I did, and the public at large, or a lot of us, didn't expect him to be a miracle worker, but they certainly expected him to do it, or at least at face value, they expected him to be a miracle worker who could turn Eskom around from years and years of plunder and corruption and everything else. The fact that he was almost poisoned, he was almost assassinated, speaks for itself. It's the previous Pakamene Adebe, the previous CEO, collapsed. After that we have Jabu Mabuza, who was almost just a shoo-in. I don't think he was in any way actively involved with managing Eskom during his short tenure. Pakamene Adebe, we know what happened with him. He quit eventually due to health concerns. And before him we had state capture, we had Brian Molefe and so forth. So André de Ruyter had a very, very difficult job. We need to understand that. And I think he didn't get the necessary support. So in the end, he fell out of love. They got divorced, and the honeymoon was definitely over, I think, pretty soon, not even 6 months, as we would think it would last in a normal marriage.
Yes, I was just going to ask you how soon disillusionment set in. Do you think the private investigation he had done involving former police commissioner George Fivers played a factor in the breakdown of their relationship?
Yeah, I think that was one factor. That also speaks for itself. I think he didn't get the necessary support from the law enforcement agencies. There were some arrests made now. In my opinion, not enough. They're not adequate. They're not high level enough. And usually this is what we see with many of the government probes and investigations and so forth, is that lower level employees get thrown under the bus. They were basically appointed without merit, and they were expendable, and they get thrown under the bus. And like I said numerous times, Jan Oberholzer and André de Ruyter both said that they do not get the cooperation from the police that they should. And I have it on good authority that they did report it to the police higher ups, that there are cartels and criminal syndicates operating within Eskom in terms of the coal sector, stealing coal, replacing it with, I don't know, various other materials. And yeah, that eventually led him to simply do his own investigation, to get some private investigators in, because then you have proof. And I think that proof will probably be documented in his new book. I haven't read the book yet, but I've seen a lot of reporting on it. I think there will be quite a few sensational revelations. I see it's a bestseller everywhere you go, at every bookshop, almost that I've visited during the last week. You can see that people are really, really interested in seeing what's going on at Eskom, because we live with the consequences each and every day. We have load shedding. We might have stage 11 load shedding, according to certain experts, in June and July, when the demand goes up and there's not enough supply. And he probably thought that this private investigation would eventually lead, or it could be leaked to the press, and then pressure could be exerted on certain role players, the president even, Gwede Mantashe, Pravin Gordhan, and so forth. Instead, it was, I don't know if it was really, if everything in there was valid. I don't know. I'm not privy to everything that's to all the findings contained within that report. But I think some of it, at least, is accurate, just based on everything that we've read. I mean, if you open up the Sunday Times on any given Sunday, there will be a story, a damning story on Eskom. Any daily newspaper, website, radio station, everybody's talking about it, because it's hurting the economy, it's hurting livelihoods, it's killing the business sector, it's killing business confidence. And I think he just saw no way out in terms of gathering evidence, gathering it in a purposeful way, and eventually just leaking it out, and or putting it in his book. They probably expected him not to write a book at the end, or to say something to ENCA. They thought he would keep quiet like everyone else kept quiet, and that is simply not happening. And I think that is our point of departure, that at the start of this relationship, if you can call it that, André de Ruyter thought something and had certain goals in mind and objectives in terms of what he wanted to do at Eskom. And on the other side, you had government who probably wants to still protect these vested interests. And I think instead of complaining about de Ruyter's book, just investigate the claims that he's made. Investigate the claims that the journalist, or facts that journalists have put on the table. Stop complaining about revelations that's coming out of Eskom. There's obviously a huge problem. They can't fix the coal stations. Burning diesel is exceedingly expensive. And then they want to play around with renewables and everything else. And I think André de Ruyter was probably caught up within the conflict of visions, within the ruling ANC. On the one side, you have the Ramaphosa camp, if you can call it that. I think there's more than two camps, even on this issue, who wants to really boost renewables and aim for a cleaner future, because that is what the president is saying repeatedly in his speeches, and that is what he's advocating for. And on the other hand, you have Gwede Mantashe and so forth, with these car power ship deals and, coal and so forth. Because he is a trade unionist and he wants to protect the interests of the unions at the mines and so forth. And I think just André de Ruyter got caught up in the middle, and I think in the end it was wise for him to resign. I don't think he had any other choice. I think he's very, very brave to make these revelations and not just keep quiet and just see almost what damage he can do before he exits. I think this book is probably a big step. We shouldn't underestimate the impact that would have, especially in light of elections coming up next year. The ANC worrying about its prospects, what its vote tally would be, or its vote percentage, and going forward, who would rule South Africa and so forth. This is a big issue, and it's something that would probably determine the outcome of an election next year.
If I may ask, to what extent do you think sabotage makes Eskom almost unmanageable?
To a very, very large extent. Like I said, I have a good authority from former colleagues of mine who work at Eskom. I didn't work at Eskom, but I was also at a trade union for quite a while. And those are part of sabotage, part of the vested interest at Eskom. People have a vested interest in power stations breaking down, technical faults occurring, coal not being delivered on time or in the exact quantities or the exact makeup of the coal to be delivered. And then you have contractors, you have entrepreneurs in the background who would obviously come again and return again and again to fix these problems, or seemingly fix these problems, while they never actually get fixed. So I think there's no doubt in my mind, from what I've read and people I've spoken to, just everything that has been exposed over the last few years, that sabotage plays a very, very real role in, especially at the coal station, the coal power stations. There's a very, very large presence of people who have an interest in things just not working.
That was independent commentator Eugene Brink speaking to BizNews about the breakup between André de Ruyter and the ANC over Eskom.